Hello, it is I, Halloween Dan, and today we are doing another ghost story with Halloween Dan. Ooh. Today we are talking not so much about a ghost story, but as an urban legend. Probably one of the oldest urban legends, definitely one of the most terrifying urban legends to ever stalk the streets of the United Kingdom. It's a bizarre one because it goes on for such a long period of time, and it, in its own way, has inspired its own myths, its own legends, its own stories, its own dramas, its own TV appearances even. And it even has, it's been said, led to inspiring some of the sort of later superhero characters that we know and love in comic books and the likes. So, let's get into the tale of Spring-Heeled Jack. So, in the early 1800s, 1804 to be precise, a strange and bizarre series of attacks start to happen in and around London. And the attacks all bear similar markings, similar things that sort of make the police begin to wonder whether these attacks are happening by the same person, the same perpetrator. The attacks are all on young women, usually in the evening time, but the reports that police get from these women who are attacked are of a strangely dressed, usually quite tall, up to 8 or 9 feet in height, man who not only attacks suddenly out of the darkness, but that would claw at the women's clothing with strangely metallic claws, and would then, when disturbed by the woman screaming or someone coming to assist, would bound off and bounce away much faster than anyone could pursue it. These strange reports continue to happen all the way through the early part of the 19th century. But the start of the real urban myth and legend that is Spring-Heeled Jack begins in 1837. A woman named Mary Stevens is walking home through Clapham Common, and when she's approached by a strange figure out of the darkness, the figure grabs her and subdues her and starts to claw at her clothing. It's then that she notices that the creature that's doing this isn't just a man, because it has strangely red, glowing eyes. She screams for help, and when those that hear her screaming come to assist, the creature bounces off into the darkness, bounds away. That's the first true attack which is put down to an attack by the creature that would later become named as Spring-Heeled Jack. And the name comes from an attack that takes place the next day in a similar part of London. The next day, this creature's seen again. This time, it bounds down from a rooftop into the street, scaring a horse which is pulling a carriage, causing the carriage to lose control and crash. The onlookers, and there were many witnesses because it was only early evening, said that the creature then bounced off over a wall and along a rooftop, cackling as it went. After this report is put into the newspapers and people start to spread these strange attacks and linking the stories together, the creature is given the name Spring-Heeled Jack, and the name will live on into infamy. I have to say that what's different about the attacks of Spring-Heeled Jack is that they, not only are they kind of terrifying attacks in themselves, but they go on for such a long period of time. But it seems to be this pocket of time in the 1830s when he's most prevalent. Probably the most famous attack of all takes place in 1838, and this is the one that really gives me the heebie-jeebies. A woman named Jane Alsop answers the door of her father's house after hearing some quite intense knocking at the door. Stood before her in a long black cloak is a man who claims to be a police officer. He tells Jane that they have captured the creature known as Spring-Heeled Jack in an alleyway not too far away, but it's too dark to see. Can she go and get a light? Jane runs into the house, gets a candle and lights it, and brings it back out to the man she believes is a police officer. Only when she hands him the candle does the creature reveal itself, dropping back its cloak and revealing a terrifying beast-like creature. Strangely oiled white vest it seemed to be wearing was very tight-fitted. The man/creature is very, very tall. Suddenly she realises it's got burning red glowing eyes, and the bizarrest part about this particular attack is he then vomits forth from his mouth a stream of blue and white flame, which strikes the woman and knocks her into a sort of fit-like state, where the creature then starts to claw at her with these strange metallic claws. Her sister hears her scream and comes to assist, and the creature, just like in every account, bounds away, unable to be stopped by anyone because it's so fast, agile at jumping over walls and over rooftops. 9 days later, a woman named Lucy Scales is walking home with her sister, and they go through an alleyway known as the Green Dragon Alley, which is a sort of cut through to where they live. As they're walking down the alley, they notice that there's a man or a figure stood to one side down the alleyway. They don't pay too much heed to this figure, but as they approach, the figure turns, drops his cloak, and breathes flame into the same blue flame into this Lucy's face, who immediately drops and begins to have a fit. In this particular attack, the creature doesn't do anything else, it simply bounds away. But obviously, it's a frightening attack for the two women who are involved. Throughout the years that would follow, the police would look into all sorts of different men, particularly thinking it was a man, not thinking it was a ghost or a demon or whatever, even though at the time the public were within a frenzy that it was definitely some sort of a demonic creature that was at play here. They interview plenty of men who could be potential suspects, but none of them fit the bill, and the women themselves always say, no, this isn't my attacker. My attacker breathed flame at me and looked like a demonic creature. As the years go on, the creature's description varies depending on where it takes place. Some describe him just as a tall, sometimes quite well-dressed man, but with burning red eyes. Some would describe an almost devil-like creature with hooves and horns on his head that would leap over walls and over buildings. There were all kinds of descriptions, but the same description always used to come forward of this large black cloak and a strangely tall creature. Over the next 80 years, there are a series of similar attacks that take place all over the UK, most of them around London, but they slowly seem to spread northwards. There's an account at barracks in Aldershot of some soldiers being approached, soldiers on duty being approached by a creature in a dark cloak. The creature, after being told to stay back, continues to come forward. They shoot it, they fire at the creature, and the creature doesn't seem to be bothered by that at all. It apparently pushes one of the soldiers over and bounds away, unable to be caught. This apparently was quite a common attack. Later on, a little further north in Lincolnshire, the same creature was said to be attacking milk floats and postal vehicles, literally jumping into the road, scaring horses and making the carriages crash. The last sighting of this creature takes place in the 20th century. So now we're talking about not that long ago. I mean, it is long ago, but not that long ago, in 1904. This last sighting takes place in Liverpool, so not that far away from where I live. And a creature is seen crawling along the roof of a church, the Church of St. Francis Xavier. And everyone looks and sees this creature with red glowing eyes crawling along the rooftops, and they all, because by this time the story of Spring-Heeled Jack is a nationwide phenomenon that everyone's aware of, and they see this creature and account it to him. The strangest part about the story of Spring-Heeled Jack is, although everything about him screams villain. In Victorian London, he's turned into a sort of a strange hero. Plenty of stories and plays and books are written about this urban legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. And by the time the turn of the century comes, he's actually seen more as a heroic character, almost Batman-esque, which is why it's been said that these urban legends of Spring-Heeled Jack are actually the basis of some of our most famous superhero stories. Batman maybe being one of them. Maybe even Wolverine with the metal claws, but that's maybe a stretch too far. Anyway, thank you for watching another one of my spooky tales. I hope this one intrigued you enough to maybe look into the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack a little bit more. And I hope it hasn't given you too many nightmares. Thanks for watching, guys. See you again soon. Keep it spooky. Bye.